The young man kindly installed a base station at his remote mountain home. This allowed the nearby residents to access the internet and make phone calls. At first, this kind gesture was met with strong opposition from the neighbors. They gathered at his doorstep every day shouting insults, claiming that the base station's radiation was too high and threatened their health. They insisted that their chest discomfort must be caused by the base station. Seeing this, the young man immediately presented the approval documents and reports for the base station, proving that his installation was completely legal and compliant. Moreover, the radiation level was even lower than a cell phone. It posed no harm to the human body at all. However, the elderly woman firmly insisted it was a fake document and tore it to shreds, demanding that the young man remove the base station at all costs. Meanwhile, building the base station in the old district had been his father's dying wish. His father had always hoped that the residents in this area could enjoy a smooth network, so the young man declared to everyone that unless an expert proved the base station was truly harmful, he absolutely would not dismantle it. With that, he closed the door and ignored the neighbors' unreasonable fuss. The next day, the neighbors actually hired an expert to inspect it, attempting to confirm the base station's danger and force its removal. The young man agreed to the inspection, but he stipulated that if the results showed no problems, everyone must bow to his father in apology, and promised never to cause trouble at his home again. Without thinking, the neighbors agreed immediately, because they were convinced the base station must have a problem. However, when the expert saw the young man's self-built base station, he was instantly stunned. It turned out the base station used military-grade shielding wire, and all the connectors were solid copper with gold plating. Seeing this, the expert could not help but give the young man a thumbs up. It turned out that before his father passed, he had given all his savings to the young man for the construction, repeatedly reminding him not to cut corners. Sure enough, with the young man's solid materials, the inspection showed the radiation level of the base station was far below safety standards. This meant the base station posed no radiation hazard, but this result was obviously not what the neighbors wanted. So the elderly woman stirred things up again, insisting the young man must have bribed the expert to fake the results. They not only refused to apologize to the young man's father as promised, but even grabbed his father's photo and threw it on the ground, shouting that this was only the beginning. If the young man did not dismantle the base station immediately, they would keep coming to cause trouble. This left the young man completely disheartened. Feeling utterly discouraged, he finally agreed to remove the base station, but to keep a clear conscience, he set two conditions for them. First, they must get a forced demolition notice from the police. Second, more than half of the community owners must agree and sign. The young man thought that as long as the majority understood the situation, he could keep the base station, but unexpectedly, under the elderly woman's influence, all the owners in the community quickly signed. Some even praised the elderly woman for solving a big problem for them. In just one day, she brought the notice and the signed forms to his door, so the young man stopped resisting and signed the removal agreement. Seeing this, the elderly woman proudly took credit, saying that facing an unreasonable person like the young man required fighting to the end. Otherwise, the whole community would be harmed by him. The nearby residents all eagerly praised her, calling her the community's #1 hero. Then they demanded the young man give a specific removal time, and warned him not to try to cheat. The young man didn't waste words and immediately called the construction team to schedule the dismantling. Satisfied, the neighbors finally left happily. Soon the construction team arrived on the rooftop to remove it. The residents downstairs cheered and clapped. Some even said that with the base station gone, everything felt smoother. As the removal neared the final stage, the foreman reminded the young man, once the core component was removed, the whole community would lose signal, asking if he was sure he wanted to proceed. The young man nodded and told them to continue. So as the last core component was taken out, the entire old district instantly returned to a no-signal era. However, the residents downstairs were completely unaware, still celebrating what they thought was their victory. At that moment, one elderly man suddenly felt chest pain and couldn't breathe. The next second, he collapsed in agony. Seeing this, the elderly woman frantically called for emergency services, but the phone line had no signal, so she had to ask others around for help to call. Everyone pulled out their phones, but none had any signal either. Then someone finally realized the reason. All of this was caused by the removal of the base station, but by then it was already too late to regret.